Alan Mark Grayson is an attorney who's currently serving as a member of the U.S. House from Florida's 8th Congressional District. That district includes just over half of Orlando, as well as Walt Disney World and a part of Ocala. He is a progressive Democrat, and in the 2008 congressional election, he defeated a four-term incumbent Republican to gain that office. If you want to know more about Alan Grayson, you can go to his website, or you can go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia has some pretty good information about him. Alan, welcome to the program.
Thanks. I must say that it's kind of funny to be on the program. I listen to it usually on the way home in the car. I have Sirius in the car, and I often end up flying home to Orlando on Fridays or sometimes Thursdays. And you're on. Sometimes Alan Combs is on. So I'm usually in the car and I'm listening to you. And now I'm, laying in bed. And it's the end of the day.
well, good. Well, thanks. I'm glad to hear that. If you fly AirTran, they carry XM, and we're. Oh, never mind. I was going to say.
That's go ahead. Go ahead. We could use a shameless plug before we get to more
sure.
Might as
well. Might as well. What the hell? One of the reasons we wanted to get you on the air is your quote about the Republican health care plan. A, don't get sick. B, if you do, die quickly, was a classic. I hope that remains in American politics to the same degree that some of the other more famous statements have stayed in American political folklore. That was a good one. However, now that it's been signed, now that it's been passed into law, as far as we know, and I have to tell you, I was in favor of single payer to begin with and kind of worked my way backwards to what we have now. I've got mixed feelings about it, but to me, it's a first step. And if the longest journey does begin with the first step, I think this one is sufficient right now, given what we're faced with in this country. But all of a sudden, now that it's all done, or at least this part of it's done, the crazies are coming out of the woodwork. This is astonishing. It's my understanding that at least, and possibly more, 10 Democratic members of Congress have been threatened. And I understand that perhaps you have been too.
Yeah, what happened in our case is that before the vote, when I was in D.C. and my wife and kids were in Orlando, I have 5 kids, before the vote, a woman called the house one morning, and one of my twins, 5-year-old twins, clicked the speaker button, and she said over the speaker, she said, if you vote for health care reform, I'll kill you. Said this to a 5-year-old. And my son went over to my wife and said, Mommy, there's a lady on the phone who says she's going to kill me.
Yeah. How do you deal with that?
Well, it's a little difficult since I still haven't been home yet. We were here all weekend, and I managed to miss 4 birthdays this week. My wife's 50th, my twins were 5, and on the day of the healthcare vote, my oldest daughter turned 15.
Wow. I guess I should ask, how did your wife deal with it, with you gone?
Tender loving care.
Yeah, there you go. What else can you do when a kid? I have a 5.5-year-old, and she pretty much understands what we do because our studio is in part of our home, so it's pretty obvious to Molly what goes on here. But so far, nothing like that, and I think that would be pretty shocking. What has caused this, Alan?
I think the Republicans have consciously tried to induce a national nervous breakdown. They're literally pushing the panic button over and over and over again for political purposes, because that's the only way they know how to do it. It's fear and hatred and fear over and over and over again, while we have a president who always appeals to people's better natures in contrast. But there's a large element of the population that's fallen under the influence of Fox and the right wing, and they're just constantly living in fear. I actually, on the night of the vote, I went outside and walked among the demonstrators, and the ABC reporter told me I was actually the only member of Congress, Democrat or Republican, who did that. Mm-hmm. And I saw basically 2 Americas. I saw a lot of people there, notwithstanding what Fox told people, who actually had hope for a better future, and they supported the bill. And I saw another group of Americans that were scared out of their minds, and they were against it. And the ones who supported the bill always talked to me about concrete things. There were several people, not just one person, but several people who told me, I'm dying. I'm literally dying. I can't work anymore. I'm too sick to work. I've lost my job. I'm not going to make it to 65. I need health care.
Mm-hmm.
And those are people who favored the bill. And then I had other people tell me about the road to serfdom and socialism and Obama's birth certificate.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all against the bill. So I think the reason why we're seeing this kind of threatening and violence and so on is because we have one party in America that makes conscious appeals to the dark side of human nature.
That's the part that is astonishing to me. I grew up in a family, mostly immigrants, who, when they came to this country, were because of where they came from, they were inclined towards a more conservative point of view. They were Republicans, but they were Republicans who still respected the process and respected the idea of intelligent debate, looking at substantive aspects of a debate rather than this craziness. But something has happened. It's easy for a liberal like me to pin it on 1980 and the election of Ronald Reagan. I don't know that that's necessarily true. I know that when Goldwater was so soundly defeated that the right wing in this country decided, okay, we have to do something. And they began that long, I'm sure, arduous process of putting together think tanks and organizations and the ability to blast information to editorial boards and newspapers to get their point across, while the liberals kind of sat back and cruised and said, well, we may be at war in Southeast Asia, but look how badly Lyndon Johnson kicked Goldwater's ass. We don't have to do anything. And the result is what we have now. But when did the Republican Party become like it is? I can't understand that.
Well, I don't even think there is a conservative party in America anymore. They're just anarchists. The only law they believe in is the law of the jungle. Whatever you're talking about, their answer is deregulate and nothing else.
Tax breaks.
That's tax breaks and deregulation. That's it. Whether you're talking about energy policy or employment or health care or education, all they want to do is invoke the law of the jungle and inflict on all of us a war of all against all.
And the sad part to me is they do it for sport. They do it because they can. When you have media figures who are extremely wealthy, wealthy beyond the scope that most Americans could even aspire to. I'm talking about the Becks and the Limbaughs and people like that, who are extremely wealthy and do this for sport. Incite people playing on their ignorance, playing on their fears, playing on their bigotry and prejudices for sport. I don't see anything else that they get out of this except it's fun.
I have 5 children, and I can tell you they go through certain stages. And when they're very young, there's this one little stage where they're experimenting with lying, and you can see it in their faces because you're talking about a very young age.
Sure.
But they're sort of figuring out when do you tell a lie, when do you not tell a lie. And I see the same thing on Bill O'Reilly's face every time I watch his show. Most of us grow out of it. Some of us don't.
Yeah.
And when he thinks of a really good one, when he thinks of a very plausible lie,
right,
that's when he's most proud of himself.
Yeah. He gets that kind of little boy look of he's very pleased with himself. Look what I did.
They tried to nail me a few months ago on the show. And what happened was they sent over a guy to try to videotape me as I was leaving the office. And like every other night when I'm in Washington, D.C., we were working late that night.
Right.
So I didn't leave the office until, something like past 9 o'clock. So he made it sound like I'd holed up in my office trying to avoid the camera, and he was some kind of hero for sending somebody over. And then he said, and isn't it true that Grayson always leaves his office around 3:30 every afternoon? And I saw that look on his face. I saw that's a good one look.
Alan,
that's a good one.
Let me put you on hold for a second. We got to do a break here. We're talking with Florida Congressman Alan Grayson. Stay with us. I'm Mike Malloy.